What's up guys, Brandon for your gaming and welcome back to another episode of Ken and Cake, the series where we dive deep into smartphones and test if they're actually good at gaming or just pretending. Today, we've got something fresh from Samsung's mid-range lineup, the Galaxy A36. It promises some solid specs at interesting price. But as always, we're here to find out if those specs translate into real gaming performance. So, can it game? Let's find out. Right off the bat, the Galaxy A36 brings a familiar Samsung design language. Glass front, glass back, with Gorilla Glass Victus Plus protection, premium materials here, which might actually explain some choices Samsung made internally. It has a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED panel with a 120Hz refresh rate, 1200 nits high brightness mode, and a peak brightness hitting 1900 nits. Not bad at all, especially at this price point. Under the hood, you're looking at a Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 chipset built on a 4nm process. It's paired with an Adreno 710 GPU and you have two storage options. A 6GB RAM variant with 128GB storage priced at $19,990 and an 8GB RAM variant with 256GB storage at $21,990. Both variants have LPDDR4X RAM and UFS 2.2 storage, standard for mid-range devices these days. Powering all this is a solid 5000 mAh battery supporting 45 watts wired charging. Now on paper, the specs seem reasonable for mid-range gaming, but there's always more to the story than the spec sheet. Alright, benchmarks incoming, brace yourselves. And as usual, benchmarks alone don't tell the whole story, but they're fun to look at. Decent scores overall, although nothing that'll blow your mind. This chipset and RAM configuration should handle games, but will it handle them well? So here's how we test gaming performance. We play each game for exactly 30 minutes at default graphics settings. Why default? Because manufacturers usually optimize performance best at these recommended settings, giving us a balanced and realistic scenario for mid-range devices. During this test, we focus specifically on average frame rate per second or FPS and average surface temperature, smooth gameplay, and cool hands. These are the real-world indicators you want to see in a gaming phone. Alright, time to see what these phones crack. Starting with Call of Duty Mobile, we averaged a steady 60 FPS, which was good, but the phone did get pretty warm at about 43 degrees Celsius. That's manageable, though slightly warmer than ideal. Next up is the heavyweight, Genshin Impact. Here, we saw about 38 FPS average, and the temperature climbed up to around 44 degrees Celsius. Playable, sure, but you'll notice some frame drops and mild stutters during combat or crowded scenes. For Zenless Zone Zero, the phone held a solid 45 FPS at roughly 45 degrees Celsius. Again, decent numbers, but I could feel slight latency in touch response and occasional frame drops. Nothing game-breaking, but noticeable. Moving on to Mobile Legends. This game is well optimized for mid-range devices. Surprisingly, we average 90 FPS with temperatures hovering around 42 degrees Celsius. Good numbers, but like before, the occasional delay in touch response was noticeable here. Lastly, Asphalt Legends Unite kept a steady 60 FPS at about 41 degrees Celsius. Smooth gameplay overall, but again, minor touch latency appeared here and there. So yes, it can run games, but performance isn't always flawless. Now, after thoroughly testing the Galaxy A36, here's what we genuinely like. First, the display. It's bright, vibrant, color accurate, and flat. Flat screens are always better for gaming, so thumbs up for that. Second, battery life. It's solid. You can easily get through a full day, even with some gaming thrown into the mix. Third, Samsung One UI 7. It's fluid, easy to navigate, feels responsive, but does have some unnecessary apps pre-installed. Not a deal breaker, but still, bloatware isn't ideal. Fourth, heat management. Despite those temperatures in the mid-40s, the device handled thermals quite well, avoiding serious throttling even in heavy games. On the other hand, we also have some genuine concerns. One, at this price point, Samsung could have packed a better display, chipset, or at least made 8GB RAM standard. 6GB RAM today just doesn't feel future-proof, especially for a phone advertised with a massive 6-year software update cycle. 2. Speaking of that software support, 6 years is impressive, but pairing it with relatively modest hardware feels odd. Will the Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 even be able to handle future Android versions smoothly? That's a question mark. 3. And most noticeably, the touch response and occasional frame drops. For a gaming-centric review, responsiveness and consistency matter. The Galaxy A36 falls short here in some key gaming scenarios. So, while the device checks many boxes, there's a clear room for improvement. Alright, bottom line, can the Samsung Galaxy A36 game? The short answer, yes, but it's not quite the ideal gaming mid-ranger. If you prioritize a great display, decent daily performance, and long-term software support, the Galaxy A36 makes sense, especially if you're a casual gamer. But if you're serious about mobile gaming, need top-notch responsiveness, or want more raw power for your money, there might be better options out there. Ultimately, the Galaxy A36 feels like Samsung tried balancing everything without really excelling in anything. It's not a bad phone, but with so many strong competitors in this price range, Samsung probably could have pushed the envelope just a little bit more. And that's it. What device would you like us to do a game review next? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and also visit our website gaming.yugatech.com for more gaming stuff, news, and reviews. This is Brian, and see you again on the next one.